Rumble strips on the road are meant to help us, to give us feedback, to keep us in line, but no one likes the way it feels when we hit them. How are we at receiving feedback? That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast, a program that we love because we love educators and those who contribute to the lives of others. We get to inspire and teach and coach, and sometimes we get to run the back office and make sure that the facilities are taken care of and the lunch is served and all the details that go into a school. It's complicated. There's so many pieces that go into providing the best experience for our students and for helping them find that joy of learning and of life. And so thank you, really. Thank you for what you do and the commitment that you make to serving others. It sometimes isn't appreciated. Sometimes it's something that we know that we do it because of a calling. We do it because we get to make a difference and hopefully provide a better path forward for those that walk this journey with us, and we get to pour into them and teach them and make a difference in their lives. You do make a difference, and sometimes it's not known until later, but boy, is it something it's worth it because you matter. Hey, sometimes as we go down the road, we take some road trips. We get to work with schools all over. I mean, all over North America and sometimes even around the world. And yeah, we take road trips, and sometimes we're flying, and sometimes we're driving, and sometimes I'm looking forward to that autonomous car, right? That's because that ability to have the car do some work for me, that would be really interesting. I've had people say to me, well, I don't know, that has some risk to it, but that's what we want to talk about today is taking those road trips, because on those road trips, sometimes we get some feedback that gives us some ability to check to make sure that we're staying on the path, right? If you must hold yourself up to your children as an object lesson, hold yourself up as a warning and not as an example, said George Bernard Shaw. Right? Sometimes sometimes we when I say do it like me, but other times it's like, hey, don't do it like me. And sometimes there's an opportunity for us to be aware. We're getting feedback from other sources that are saying, hey, hang on a second. Get back on track, right? Get back in the middle of the road. The concern about self-driving cars is understood, but it's not hard to see that many drivers on the road, they're either on their phones, or they're sleepy, or they're eating, or they're intoxicated, or they're distracted, right? So I'm not so sure that it's that great of a risk, and I think maybe some of the benefits are worth it. But as you're traveling down the road, as we're going on some of those road trips, we come across the rumble strips. You probably have hit those when maybe you got off a little bit, and sometimes those strips are right on the edge of the road. Sometimes they may be off a little bit further, so we have a little leeway. I'll hit those sometimes when they're right on the strip, and like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. And because the rumble strips were added, they were added to roads to alert inattentive drivers of potential danger, right? By causing an unmistakable vibration, an audible noise that it really gets our attention, right? It's like, it shakes sometimes the steering wheel, and you can't miss it, right? And it would be useful if life came with some type of rumble strip, right? With warnings like this when we're about to veer off the road, because we all do that. We all get distracted. We all have other things that are going on. It would be great, something loud, something that is disruptive. It gets our full attention, and it tells us, hey, wake up, you're headed to danger. A man's conscience, like a warning line on the highway, it tells him what he shouldn't do. but it does not keep him from doing it, said Frank Clark. Sometimes we get those warnings, and in life, it's not going to be a rumble strip. It may be some type of feedback from our bodies. Sometimes it's feedback from other people. Sometimes it's verbal feedback or nonverbal feedback. But there's that heads up to say, hey, you're headed in a direction that you may not want to go, and being able to heed those warnings. That's an important part of growing up and of gaining wisdom. Perhaps we're hitting the rumble strips on the road of life, but we're not heeding the alarm. Our bodies can give signals that something's wrong and we need to make a change. Sometimes our spirit gets uneasy when the situation doesn't align with our values and our purpose, and we get uncomfortable. We sense that something's not right. We gotta think about this. Our colleagues may be sending signals that we're the cause of conflict and concern. And you blow through those, and you're going to pay the consequence. And it's a part of becoming a professional is learning how to heed the rumbles, to heed the feedback. Sometimes it's explicit, sometimes it's implicit. It's some things that we have to listen to. Our assessments of progress and impact clearly show less than expected and needed, right? Sometimes we're getting feedback from our supervisor or from other people, and it's not where we need to be, and we have to make some adjustments because it's risky to ignore the warnings that should be causing adjustments to our direction. It should be causing us to self-correct, and of course sometimes we can overcorrect like in a car, but so we want to self-correct, get back on the road, and make sure that we're going to stay safely in the direction that we need to go. The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. That's Proverbs 12:15. And there's an important lesson in this, right? If we're going to be wise, if we're going to have a wisdom about what we do, then we have to be able to hear the feedback, to hear the rumbles, to even seek out, to make sure that we're staying on that path and we're seeking that feedback so that we are able to make the needed adjustments. Ignoring those has consequences. Who in our life, for example, has permission to tell us hard truths? Who can do that? When is it off, sort of out of bounds for them to sit down with us and say, hey, let me give you some feedback? Do you have people in your life that are doing that keep us on the right path? Because it's dangerous if you don't. If you don't have the people who can rumble, maybe they're rumbling for you, maybe they're rumbling with you, right? But they're willing to and have permission to sit down or to raise the alarm and say, hey, wait a second, are you sure? You need to get back on track, because you're going down a path that it's not where you want to be. Habits make the difference, right? It's our habits of listening, habits of making adjustments. Do we pause and thoroughly listen to the feedback, or do we become lost in stubborn defensiveness that stunts our growth and effectiveness, right? Do we stay headstrong, that in a way that, man, it's everybody's around us sees that we're going off the path, and the warning signs are up, but it's just not connecting. Sometimes it's our stubbornness. Sometimes we're just so distracted that we're not paying attention. But it's important that we take that seriously. Self-confidence without keen self-awareness inevitably leads to the pitfall of pride, right? That pride that keeps us from heeding that noise, from heeding the rumbles, where we foolishly ignore the alerts in full speed devotion towards our own demise, right? The warnings are there, but we're not listening to them, right? Self-intelligence combined with humility helps us to correct. It helps us to get back on the road, to get back inside the lines. Now, sometimes we have to, we really have to make sure that we're listening to the right rumbles. Some folks are trying to keep us from being where we want to go. They put some speed bumps in, right? But this is about staying on a path of righteousness, of staying on a path of wisdom, of staying on a path of leadership. That's what we're talking about. And so what we're encouraging you to do is, hey, respect the rumbles this week. Respect the rumbles this week, my friend, heeding the feedback to stay on track towards your noble goals. You're here for a calling. You've pursued this path to be a part of education because you know it makes a difference, and it requires sacrifices. It requires doing the hard things. It requires sometimes showing up early and staying late. It requires preparation. It requires learning new things and having that growth mindset and that grit that we talk about a lot, but doing it and practicing it, that's hard. And listen, fighting through that, we get it. It's something that, being a part of growth and having to learn new things and do new things, it is uncomfortable. But you're an educator. We are educators, and we get to do this out of a passion for the work because we make a difference in people's lives. And so as you're going through this week, hear the rumbles, hear the feedback loops. And as you're going through this week, a coaching question to consider, right? Did I do my best to respect the rumbles today? Did I do my best to respect the rumbles today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.